The impossible stand. The U.S. Valiant hung in the void, a solitary guardian at the edge of human space. Its sleek, angular form was barely visible against the backdrop of stars, stealth systems working overtime to mask its presence from the approaching hegemony fleet. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display where dozens of enemy vessels moved in perfect formation, each one larger and theoretically more powerful than her lone warship. Stealth systems holding at 93% efficiency. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel reported from the tactical station. But they'll detect us eventually, Captain. The radiation from the nebula is creating interference patterns. Chen nodded, not bothering to look away from the display. How long until the quantum beacon is operational? Dr. Nakamura reports 15 minutes, minimum. First Officer David Reese said, his weathered face grim in the blue glow of the bridge displays. The calibration sequences can't be rushed without risking a cascade failure. We may not have 15 minutes, Chen replied, finally turning to face her crew. The bridge was eerily quiet, each officer working with the focused intensity that came with knowing you were humanity's last, desperate hope. 6 months ago, the hegemony had appeared at the outer colonies without warning. Their massive crystalline ships had decimated the orbital defenses around Proxima Centauri within hours. 3 days later, Alpha Centauri fell. Then Wolf 359. Each colony reduced to ashes, each defeat further proving humanity's technological inferiority against these invaders who communicated only through devastation. Earth had mobilized its entire fleet in response, a fleet that now existed only as debris fields and radiation echoes, all except the Valiant, humanity's newest and most advanced warship, equipped with experimental technology that had never been field-tested. And now that experimental tech was their only hope. Captain, Lieutenant Sarah John called from the sensor station, her voice tight with tension. I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with hegemony scan patterns. They're sweeping the sector. Time to beacon readiness, Chen demanded. 13 minutes, Reese replied. Chen's mind raced through their options, each bleaker than the last. The Valiant wasn't designed for direct confrontation with an armada of this size. Its strength lay in its revolutionary quantum entanglement drive, a system that could, in theory, disrupt the hegemony's hive-mind communication network. But the drive needed the beacon to establish the initial quantum link. New contact, Zhang announced, her voice rising an octave. Massive signature, moving independently from the main fleet. Classification: it's a hegemony dreadnought, Captain. At least 3 times the size of anything we've encountered before. On the main view screen, a massive crystalline structure materialized from the nebula's swirling gases. Unlike the angular, aggressive designs of the smaller hegemony vessels, this ship resembled a cathedral of light, its translucent hull revealing intricate geometric patterns pulsing with energy. They found us, Patel confirmed, his fingers dancing across his console. Stealth systems failing under directed scans. Chen straightened her uniform jacket, a habit from her academy days that surfaced in moments of crisis. Battle stations. Shields to maximum. Lieutenant Commander Patel, arm all weapon systems but hold fire until my command. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as the crew rushed to prepare for the coming storm. Warning klaxons echoed through the ship as armored blast doors, sealed compartments, and crew members raced to their combat positions. Captain, Communications Officer Elena Vasquez called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the hegemony vessel. This is unprecedented." Chen felt the hair rise on the back of her neck. In 6 months of brutal conflict, the hegemony had never attempted communication. "On screen," she ordered, squaring her shoulders. The view screen flickered, and the bridge crew collectively gasped. The face that appeared wasn't the crystalline, inhuman visage they had glimpsed in rare reconnaissance footage. It was human, or had been once, a woman in her 50s with copper-colored hair and eyes that had been replaced with pulsing geometric patterns that matched the energy signatures of the hegemony ships. Captain Maya Chen, the figure said, its voice carrying unnatural harmonics that made Chen's teeth ache. Your resistance has reached its terminal point. The Valiant will power down and prepare for integration. The technological anomalies you harbor will be assimilated. Your crew will achieve unity within the collective. Chen rose from her chair, fury burning away her fear. This is Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We will not surrender, we will not power down, and we sure as hell will not be assimilated. The hegemony ambassador's expression remained static, but something flickered in those geometric eyes. Humanity as you comprehend it is inefficient, flawed. The collective offers perfection through unity. You call the slaughter of millions unity. First Officer Reese demanded, unable to contain himself. The ambassador's head tilted slightly. Inefficient biological processes were terminated. Valuable neural pathways were preserved within the collective. Nothing of worth was lost. Chen felt sick at the casual dismissal of human life spoken through what had once been human lips. It crystallized everything they were fighting for. We reject your offer, she said firmly. Humanity will remain free or die free. There is no third option. The ambassador's expression hardened. Then you have chosen termination. Your technology will still serve the collective, even without your biological components. The transmission cut abruptly, and the view screen returned to the image of the approaching armada, now moving into attack formation. Well, Reese said dryly, at least we know they want something we have. Which means, Chen added, her mind working rapidly, we have leverage. Lieutenant Zhang, prepare to activate all countermeasures. Lieutenant Commander Patel, plot us a course directly through the center of their formation. The bridge erupted in surprised exclamations. Captain, Patel protested, that's suicide. Even with our shields at maximum, it would be. It would be, Chen agreed, if we were planning to engage conventionally. But we're not. She turned to the communications officer. Lieutenant Vasquez, send a tight beam transmission to Earth. Inform High Command that we've made contact with a hegemony ambassador and that they're concerned about our technology. Tell them we're about to test the quantum beacon and that we're bringing the fight directly to the enemy. Vasquez nodded and began the transmission as Chen activated the shipwide comm. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations, prepare for extreme maneuvers and possible drive system overload. What we're about to attempt has never been done before, but I believe in this ship, and I believe in every one of you. She paused, searching for words that could possibly convey what she needed them to understand. The odds are against us. They always have been. But the Valiant was built for this moment. To defy those odds. To stand when no one else could. Today, we carry humanity's hope into the heart of the enemy. Whatever happens next, remember that they fear what we've built. And that means we finally found their weakness. She closed the channel and returned to her chair. The bridge crew looked at her with renewed determination. Chief Rodriguez, she called. Engineering. Divert all non-essential power to the quantum systems and shields. Dr. Nakamura, report to the bridge immediately. Aye, Captain, came the simultaneous replies. Minutes later, Dr. Yuki Nakamura arrived on the bridge. Her normally pristine lab coat wrinkled from what had likely been another all-night research session. At 38, she was the youngest person ever to receive the Hawking Award in theoretical physics and the driving force behind the Valiant's revolutionary technology. Captain, she said tersely, tell me you're not planning what I think you're planning. I'm afraid I am, Doctor, Chen replied. The hegemony just made contact. They're specifically interested in your technology, which suggests it threatens them. Nakamura's eyes widened. They made contact. That's unprecedented. And telling, Reese added. They've never bothered to talk before smashing through our defenses. Nakamura moved to a secondary console, her fingers flying over the interface. The quantum beacon isn't ready for combat deployment. In simulations, it's only been stable 67% of the time, and that's under controlled conditions. And the other 33%? Chen asked. though she already knew the answer. Catastrophic failure, Nakamura said bluntly. At best, the drive burns out, and we're dead in space. At worst, she gestured vaguely. Well, the physics gets interesting. Theoretically, we could create a temporary rupture in space-time that would destroy everything within several thousand kilometers, including hegemony ships, Patel pointed out. And us, Nakamura countered. Chen studied the tactical display. The hegemony vessels had nearly completed their encirclement. Within minutes, they'd be trapped with no hope of escape or victory through conventional means. What if, she said slowly, we don't try to escape? What if we use the drive to jump directly into the center of their formation, activate the beacon, and then jump out before the effect propagates? Nakamura stared at her. You want to use my beacon as a quantum bomb. That's not what it was designed for. But is it possible? Chen pressed. The scientist was silent for a long moment, calculations visibly running through her mind. Theoretically, yes, we could create a localized disruption field that might, and I stress might, interrupt their hive-mind connection. But the timing would have to be perfect. We'd need to jump in, initiate the pulse, and jump out within seconds, all while under heavy fire. And if it works? Chen asked. Best case, we temporarily sever their collective consciousness, leaving each ship isolated and confused. It would be like suddenly blinding a coordinated army. They'd lose their tactical advantage. How long would the effect last? Nakamura shook her head. Minutes? Hours? There's no way to know without a field test, which is exactly what we're about to conduct. Chen made her decision. Lieutenant Commander Patel, calculate jump coordinates to the center of their formation. Lieutenant Zhang, prepare all weapon systems. The moment we jump in, I want everything we have directed at their main vessel. Captain. Vasquez interrupted. The hegemony ships are charging weapons. Estimated time to firing range, 20 seconds. Chen turned to Nakamura. Doctor, I need you to make this work. Humanity needs you to make this work. Their eyes met, and Chen saw the same determination that had driven Nakamura to create revolutionary technology against impossible deadlines. I'll need to modify the beacon sequencing, she said, already moving toward the engineering station, and we'll have to reroute power from life support on decks 4 through 7. Do it, Chen ordered. Evacuate those decks immediately. As the crew rushed to prepare, Chen found herself staring at the view screen, at the crystalline death approaching from all sides. In her mind, she saw Tokyo again, saw her son's face bright with anticipation for a birthday party she would miss. She promised to come home, to bring him a souvenir from space. Now she wondered if she'd ever see Earth again, let alone keep that promise. But if they succeeded today, if Nakamura's theory proved correct, she might give her son something far more valuable than a souvenir. She might give him a future. Beacon modification complete, Nakamura announced. Quantum systems primed and ready, Captain. It's not stable. The resonance patterns are fluctuating beyond predicted parameters. Will it work? Chen asked simply. She met Chen's gaze steadily. It'll work. The question is whether we'll survive it. Enemy weapons locked on us, Paddle reported. Multiple energy signatures charging. All personnel, secure for jump, Chen ordered. This is it, people. History happens now. She took one last look at her crew, at the faces of men and women who had volunteered for what many considered a suicide mission from the start. Whatever happened in the next few minutes, they had already proven humanity's greatest strength. The willingness to stand against impossible odds, to fight not just for survival, but for the right to determine their own destiny. Initiate jump, Chen commanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Patel activated the sequence, jumping in 3, 2, 1. The stars on the view screen blurred, and the Valiant, humanity's lone warship against an alien armada, leaped into the heart of the enemy, carrying with it humanity's last desperate hope. turning the tide. Reality itself seemed to tear as the Valiant materialized in the heart of the hegemony formation. The lurch of the jump drive sent several crew members sprawling, and warning indicators flashed across every console on the bridge. "Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 and 9, shouted Lieutenant Vasquez, her fingers dancing across the damage control interface. "Emergency force fields holding at 78%. Chen barely registered her words. The view screen showed a sight no human had ever witnessed. The hegemony armada from within, their massive crystalline ships now surrounding the Valiant in a sphere of deadly alien geometry. For a split second, the enemy vessels seemed frozen in confusion, their perfect formation disrupted by the Valiant's impossible appearance in their midst. They didn't expect this, Reese breathed, a hint of savage satisfaction in his voice. "We've got maybe 10 seconds before they reorganize." "Weapons free," Chen ordered. "Target the command ship and fire everything we've got." The Valiant shuddered as its railguns, missile pods, and energy lances unleashed a coordinated barrage against the cathedral-like dreadnought. Direct hits blossomed against its crystalline hull, fracturing sections and sending glittering debris spinning into the void. "Doctor, status of the quantum beacon," Chen demanded, gripping her chair as the ship rocked from a retaliatory blast that had managed to slit through their shields. Nakamura was hunched over a console, sweat beading on her forehead. "Beacon is destabilizing. The resonance is spreading faster than predicted. We need another 40 seconds to achieve full disruptive effect." "We don't have 40 seconds, Patel warned, his console lighting up with enemy targeting locks. "They're recovering from the surprise." All ships reorienting to fire positions. In the chaos, Chen found her mind strangely calm. She thought of Earth, not just of her son but the billions fighting for survival. She thought of the colony massacres, of the memorial walls that had grown too large to maintain, of humanity pushed to the edge of extinction by an enemy that couldn't even be bothered to communicate, until today, until they saw something they feared. "Chief Rodriguez," she called to engineering. "Redirect power from the jump drive to the quantum beacon. Every ounce you can spare." "Captain," Rodriguez protested, his accent thickening with stress. "If we do that, we won't have enough power for a second jump. We'll be trapped here." "If the beacon works, we won't need a jump," Chen replied. "And if it doesn't, a second jump won't save us anyway." Dr. Nakamura looked up, her eyes wide with understanding. "You're talking about overloading the beacon, creating a cascade effect." She shook her head. "The simulations never went that far. There's no way to predict what will happen." "Does unpredictability favor us or them?" Chen asked simply. The ghost of a smile crossed Nakamura's face. "Us. Always us. Unpredictability is the one human trait the hegemony has never managed to assimilate." "Then do it," Chen ordered. The bridge fell silent as Nakamura began the sequence, all eyes on the view screen where dozens of hegemony vessels were now orienting their weapons toward the Valiant. They were out of time. "Beacon at critical threshold," Nakamura announced, her voice surprisingly steady despite everything. "Initiating pulse in 3, 2. The closest hegemony vessel fired a beam of searing energy slicing toward them. "Brace," Reese shouted. The impact threw Chen against her restraints as the beam grazed their starboard hull. Alarms blared and emergency lighting flickered. The deck trembled beneath them like a living thing in pain. "Hull breach on deck 4, Vasquez reported, her voice tight with control. "Sealing emergency bulkheads. We've lost 5 crew members." Chen closed her eyes for just a heartbeat, feeling each loss like a physical blow. Names and faces flashed through her mind, people she personally selected for this mission. Later, there would be time to mourn. Now there was only the mission. "Quantum pulse activated," Nakamura announced, her eyes fixed on readings that no one else on the bridge fully understood. "Disruption spreading at..." "Wait, this can't be right." "What is it?" Chen demanded. "The disruption is propagating exponentially faster than predicted. It's as if..." She looked up, her expression a mix of awe and fear. It's as if the hegemony's own network is amplifying our signal. On the view screen, something extraordinary was happening. The massive hegemony vessels, which had been moving with perfect synchronicity, began to drift out of formation. Several smaller craft collided, their crystalline hulls shattering on impact. Others fired weapons seemingly at random, striking their own allies. "It's working," Reese whispered. "My God, it's actually working." "Their coordination is breaking down," Paddle confirmed, staring at his tactical display in disbelief. "Captain, I'm reading multiple system failures across their fleet. Some vessels are powering down completely." For the first time since the war began, Shen felt something dangerous kindle in her chest. Hope. But that hope was short-lived. The ship rocked violently as a new barrage struck their weakened shields. On the view screen, the Cathedral Dreadnought, the one they'd initially targeted, was still operational, though visibly damaged, and it was advancing on them with singular purpose. "The command ship is adapting," Nakamura said grimly. "It's isolating itself from the network, cutting off the affected systems." "Can it reconnect with the others?" Chen asked. "Given time, yes. But for now, it's acting independently." Another blast rocked the ship, this one worse than before. Sparks cascaded from an overhead conduit, and Chen smelled the acrid scent of electrical fire. "Shields at 18%, Vasquez reported. "One more direct hit, and we're done." "What about the beacon?" Chen asked Nakamura. "Can we strengthen the pulse?" She shook her head. "We're already at maximum output. The drive can't take any more power without." She stopped, a new calculation visibly forming behind her eyes. "Unless, Captain, what if we reverse the polarity?" "In English, Doctor." "The hegemony operates on a network of quantum-entangled particles. Our beacon is designed to disrupt that entanglement. But what if instead of breaking their connections, we hijack them? Take control of their network?" Reese leaned forward. "Is that even possible?" "Theoretically, yes. Practically." Nakamura shrugged. "No one's ever tried to interface with alien technology on this scale before." "And the risk?" Chen asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. "Complete neural feedback through our systems. Every networked computer on this ship could be compromised, including life support." She hesitated. "And there's more. The interface would require a human component, a mind to direct the connections, to make sense of their network structure." The implication hung in the air, heavy as lead. Someone would need to directly connect to the hegemony consciousness, to willingly expose themselves to the same force that had already consumed countless human minds. "I'll do it," Chen said without hesitation. "Captain." "No." Reese stepped forward, his expression fierce with respect. "You're needed on the bridge," I shulled. "It has to be me," Nakamura interrupted, her voice quiet but firm. "I designed the beacon. I understand its vulnerabilities, its limitations. If anyone has a chance of maintaining control during the interface, it's me." Another hit shook the ship, more violent than the last. A support beam crashed down from the ceiling, narrowly missing Patel's station. "Hull integrity failing," Vasquez shouted over the cacophony of alarms. "Captain, we have minutes at most." Chen looked at Nakamura, seeing the determination in her eyes, the same look she'd seen countless times when humanity's brightest minds faced impossible odds. She nodded once, a decision made. "Chief Rodriguez," she called to engineering. "Prepare the neural interface. Dr. Nakamura is coming down." "Captain," Rodriguez protested, "the interface wasn't designed for this. It's experimental tech meant for post-mission analysis, not direct engagement with alien systems." "Then you'll have to adapt it," Chen replied firmly. "That's an order, Chief." The ship lurched again as another blast struck home. This time the lights died completely before emergency power engaged, casting the bridge in an eerie red glow. "Life support failing on decks 2 through 6, Vasquez reported. "Rerouting emergency power." Nakamura was already moving toward the lift. I'll need someone to monitor my vital signs during the interface. If my neural patterns start to destabilize, I'll be there. Reese cut in. Chen nodded. Go. Keep her stable. She gripped Reese's shoulder briefly as he passed. XO, if things go wrong, if she starts to turn, you know what to do. The unspoken order hung between them. Don't let the hegemony take another human mind. Reese's jaw tightened, but he nodded once before following Nakamura into the lift. With her two most senior officers headed to engineering, Chen turned back to the bridge crew. These were the moments that defined leadership, when hope seemed lost, when the odds were insurmountable, when every choice carried the weight of lives. Patel, keep us moving. Evasive pattern Delta, she ordered. Vasquez, divert all remaining power to forward shields and the beacon. We need to give them time. The remaining bridge crew worked with desperate efficiency, their movements precise despite the chaos around them. Through the view screen, Chen watched as the enormous hegemony command ship bore down on them, its weapons charging for what would surely be a killing blow. In engineering, Nakamura was being strapped into an improvised neural interface, electrodes attached to her temples and spine while Reese monitored her vital signs. The ship's chief engineer, Rodriguez, worked feverishly to connect the interface to the quantum beacon. This is insane, he muttered, his hand steady despite his words. The interface was never designed to handle alien data streams. The feedback alone could fry your brain. Then make sure it doesn't, Nakamura replied calmly, as if they were discussing a routine system upgrade rather than a desperate gambit that would likely kill her even if it succeeded. Reese checked her neural monitors one last time. Your brainwave patterns are already showing interference. Are you sure about this, Doctor? Nakamura met his gaze. No, but what's the alternative? We all die here, and humanity follows shortly after. She took a deep breath. I'm ready, Chief. Initialize the interface. On the bridge, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Two more hegemony weapons had found their mark, and the Valiant's shields were failing. Structural integrity warnings flashed across every screen. Captain, Patel called out, his voice strained. The command ship is locking on with their main weapon. Impact in 10 seconds. Chen watched the massive energy signature building at the front of the hegemony dreadnought, a swirling vortex of power that would tear through their remaining defenses like paper. This was it, the end of the Valiant, the end of humanity's last hope. All hands, brace for impact, she ordered, her voice steady despite everything. She would face the end on her feet, as an officer should. The hegemony weapon reached critical charge, ready to fire, and then, inexplicably, went dark. Captain, Vasquez said, confusion evident in her voice, the enemy weapon is powering down. All enemy weapons are powering down. On the view screen, the massive hegemony fleet had gone still, their ships drifting lifelessly in space, their crystalline surfaces dark for the first time since the war began. What's happening? Chen demanded, hardly daring to hope. I don't know, Patel admitted. It's as if someone hit a universal off switch. Nakamura, Chen breathed. Get me engineering now. The comm channel opened, but instead of Reese or Rodriguez, the voice that emerged was a bizarre hybrid. Nakamura's voice, but overlaid with the same harmonic resonances they had heard from the hegemony ambassador. Captain Chen, the voice said, I have accessed the hegemony network. They call themselves the Collective. They were once separate species, dozens of them, conquered and assimilated over millennia. Their technology is based on forced neural integration. They literally wire conquered minds into their network. Dr. Nakamura, are you all right? Chen asked, concern overriding her relief. I am managing, Captain. The Collective's consciousness is vast, overwhelming. But I found a pattern in their code, a vulnerability in their integration protocols. I'm implementing a system-wide shutdown. Can you maintain control? Chen pressed. Your neural patterns are destabilizing, yes. Commander Reese is monitoring. I don't have much time. The ship shuddered, but not from weapons fire. On the view screen, the massive cathedral ship was moving again, but differently, erratically, as if struggling against invisible bonds. The command node is resisting, Nakamura's voice explained, the harmonics growing more pronounced. It has isolated subroutines, adaptive countermeasures. It's trying to reestablish control over the fleet. Doctor, get out of there, Chen ordered. You've given us the opening we needed. We can finish this with conventional weapons. Negative, Captain. The collective is already adapting to my intrusion. If I disconnect now, they'll recover within minutes. I need to implement a permanent solution. What kind of permanent solution? Chen asked, a growing sense of dread building in her stomach. I'm rewriting their base code, Captain. Changing the fundamental parameters of their network. Instead of forced assimilation, I'm implementing choice, free will. Chen exchanged a stunned look with Patel. That's possible. Their entire system is built on coercion, overriding individual will in favor of the collective. But the system itself is just code. Code can be changed. Nakamura's voice was weaker now, the harmonics more pronounced. I'm almost done. But the collective is fighting back. The command node, it's implementing emergency protocols, trying to sever my connection forcibly. Doctor, your neural readings are critical. Reese's voice cut in, urgent and afraid. You need to disconnect now. Just a few more seconds. On the view screen, the cathedral ship suddenly blazed with light, energy cascading across its crystalline surface in chaotic patterns. Other hegemony vessels were lighting up as well, but differently, their formations shifting, breaking apart into smaller independent groups. It's done, Nakamura announced, her voice now almost entirely overlaid with hegemony harmonics. The core directives are rewritten. Assimilation protocols purged. Each node in the network now has autonomy. The collective is no more. Doctor, get out of the interface, Chen ordered. That's an order. Too late, Captain. The command node implemented a feedback surge. My neural patterns are already compromised. But don't worry, I'm not being assimilated. I'm being distributed. What does that mean? Chen demanded, her voice breaking despite her best efforts. It means I will exist within the network, but as myself. As an advocate for humanity, I will help the former collective species remember what they were before assimilation, help them rebuild their individual cultures, their independence. The hegemony vessels were definitely moving differently now, organizing into distinct groups that seemed to be communicating with each other rather than acting as a unified force. Some were already beginning to move away from Earth's coordinates. Dr. Nakamura, Chen said softly. Yuki, thank you. It was an honor, Captain. The hegemony war is over. The species that made up the collective will need time to rediscover their identities, to learn how to exist as individuals again. Some may still be hostile, but they will no longer act as a unified force. Humanity has time now. Time to prepare, to grow, to reach its potential. We'll remember what you did, Chen promised. Your sacrifice. Not a sacrifice, Captain. An evolution. I will continue my research, just from a different perspective. The harmonics in Nakamura's voice stabilized into something almost musical. The universe is so much vaster than we imagined, Maya. So much stranger and more wonderful. I wish you could see what I see now. The communication cut off, and the bridge fell silent. On the view screen, the hegemony fleet, no, the former collective fleet, was dispersing, ships moving off in multiple directions, some alone, others in small groups. The cathedral ship remained where it was, its crystalline structure now pulsing with gentle blue light rather than the harsh white energy of before. Captain, Vask said hesitantly, we're receiving a transmission from the command ship. Chen nodded, steeling herself. On screen, the figure that appeared was still the copper-haired woman they had seen before, but changed. The geometric patterns in her eyes had softened, become less rigid, and her expression held something it hadn't before. Uncertainty. "Captain Chen," she said, her voice still carrying harmonics, but less jarring now. I was designated ambassador. I now choose the name Mara, from memories of who I was before assimilation. Dr. Nakamura has altered us, freed us. We are individuals again, or learning to be. What happens now? Chen asked cautiously. Now we must discover who we are without the collective. Some will return to their homeworlds, if they still exist. Others will seek new beginnings. The species that made up the collective were not inherently hostile. They were conquered, as we attempted to conquer you. Their aggression was a product of the assimilation protocols, which have now been neutralized. And Dr. Nakamura. Mara's expression softened further. Her consciousness exists within our network now, but as herself, she has chosen to help guide the transition, to ensure that no species attempts to recreate the collective. She asked me to tell you that she will continue her research, and that someday, she hopes to find a way to communicate more directly with Earth. Chen nodded, struggling to process the enormity of what had happened. In the span of an hour, humanity had gone from the brink of extinction to what? Peace? Alliance? At minimum, a reprieve. Time to rebuild, to strengthen their defenses, perhaps even to forge new connections with the former collective species. The Valiant will return to Earth, Chen decided. We'll bring news of what happened here today, of what Dr. Nakamura accomplished. We will withdraw our remaining ships from human space, Mara promised, and we will share what knowledge we can to help you defend against any who might threaten you in the future. It is the least we can do. As the transmission ended and the Valiant limped toward the jump point that would take them home, Chen found herself thinking of her son again, of the birthday she would now live to attend, of the future that had seemed impossible just hours ago. Humanity's lone warship had faced a galactic armada, and against all odds, had not just survived but changed the very nature of the conflict. Not through superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but through the uniquely human ability to understand an enemy well enough to transform them into something else entirely. As Chen gave the order to jump home, she wondered what stories they would tell of this day. Of the Valiant and its crew. Of Dr. Nakamura, who had given herself not as a sacrifice, but as a bridge between worlds. Whatever stories emerge, one thing was certain. The stars would never be the same again. And humanity,